I'm going to do this.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Whatever Show. Happy Boxing Day. I am Lawrence Winterman,
I am Dana Dubois, and
and
we are joined here by.
Qasim Rashid, nice to meet you all. Great to be here.
good to see you, Qasim. It is so great to have you here. I was just joking before we went live that I feel like the theme of today's show, at least partly, is two Jews and a Muslim guy talk about what they did for Christmas.
I was going to say this is the interfaith solidarity the world needs right now.
Exactly, exactly.
I think
You know,
that's true.
so the in the Jewish community, there's just a long-standing joke that for Christmas we go out for Chinese food. What do Muslims in America do when the
You know,
dominant religion celebrates its
that's,
thing?
that's such a great question. I don't know if we've developed enough modern cultural tradition to figure that part of it out yet.
Hmm.
Because you have to remember the historic Muslims in America were Black Muslims, were enslaved Africans, and many of them were forced into Christianity. Those who maintained their Islam were more worried about surviving than traditions.
Right.
And then Asian Muslims were banned from immigrating here until about 1965. And so, and then even then, like my wave of immigrants in the 80s was the first, young people wave that came in. And now, as we have kids growing up, I think ask me that question in 20 years. And I think we'll have some kind of tradition established. That's just such a thoughtful question, Lawrence. I don't think we have one. I think we just kind of enjoy a day off and get coffee or something. That's
Nice.
what we did yesterday. So
Nice, nice. You know, Kazim, you kind of describing that really, it struck me kind of yet again how, um, you know, Judaism is I didn't really anticipate that we'd necessarily kind of go down this path this early in the conversation, but like there isn't a lot of diversity in Judaism, at least in terms of skin tone. And Islam is a faith where there is a vast diversity of, race and identity and culture. It's such an interesting point, right? That,
yeah,
when it comes to like Muslim immigrants to the United States, you're talking about very different communities of people sometimes.
no, absolutely. I mean, there's the Pew survey done about this a couple of years ago, and I think if it was done again, it would revalidate the data that the single most diverse community in the United States is the American Muslim community. It's a minority-majority community. The single largest demographic are Black Muslims, followed by Asian Muslims, and then I think Middle Eastern Muslims are third. And then you have like a whole range of everything else, right? Latino Muslims are the fastest growing demographic. There's more women accepting Islam than men, which goes against the narrative that Islam is oppressive to women. I mean, there's so many like fun nuances to talk about here, and I think in part because there's so much cultural and ethnic diversity, it's not hard in a bad way, but it's not, it doesn't give as favorable to like one standard tradition. What it does is develop like a lot of fun diversity, and you can enjoy, like even with Ramadan coming up in a few months, there's a very different experience of breaking your fast in a predominantly Arab environment versus South Asian versus Black. I mean, the prayers and the ritual are the same, but the foods are very different, and that's what I love about it, because you get to experience kind of like a taste of the world in 1 month. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
As a
amazing.
foodie, I get really excited about that
You're
as
welcome to
well.
all of our iftars, every single one, without exception.
Yeah, nice.
Okay, we'll be there. Chris is pointing out in the chat that in American Judaism, this is true, but that Judaism still reaches more diverse communities internationally. True. And as you were talking, Lawrence, I'm like, well, there was the whole Sephardic line that exists, but in very small numbers after the Inquisition.
Right.
So, yeah,
Yeah, like
happy topics.
what do Jewish people in China do? Like, do they still call it Chinese food, or they just be like, we're getting food, right?
That is an excellent joke. Y'all, I keep looking to the side because I have a dog and she's making some very weird whimpering sounds. And I think I'm gonna go grab
Do your
her.
dog. Do your
She
dog.
did get a hold of her Hershey's Kiss yesterday, so I'm on a little bit of.
Uh-oh.
She didn't eat most of it, but one of my kids left. I'm just gonna blame them. But there's a little green Hershey's Kiss. I think she got more of the foil than the chocolate, but Usually she runs right over as soon as we start Cosm, and she's like Winterman's dog instead of Pavlov's dog. As soon as she hears this get started, she's like, "It's time for my treat." And it's very unusual she's not doing that. Let me just pause for 1 second, and I'll be
Yeah,
right back
yeah.
and have her in my lap. And then maybe we can jump into some of the news of the week, because even though it was a holiday week for a lot of
Things
folks
still
from work,
happened. Yeah.
geez,
Kaza, maybe we'll use this moment while Dana's checking on Kira to. I'm sure everybody in the crowd knows you already, but just in case anyone might be new to you, do you want to introduce yourself to the chat?
Sure. Well, my name is Qasim Rashid. I'm a human rights lawyer. I run Let's Address This with Qasim Rashid, where my focus is to take the important human rights issues that impact all of us, break them down, separate fact from fiction, and provide meaningful calls to action on how you can play a more active role in protecting our democracy and making sure that every person has their basic human dignity protected against social and government oppression.
One of the things, thanks, Kasim. One of the things that I love about your work is that you're so clear-sighted in your perspective, and I always come away from your writing feeling like I've learned something, and that you have articulated a key issue in a way that I haven't heard it framed before.
Well, thank you.
So if you haven't yet gone to become a subscriber of Qasim, please go check out his Substack, and at some point I'll grab the link to your Substack.
I'm going to grab it right now.
Oh, excellent.
I appreciate that. And no, Lawrence, that's very kind of you. Look, I think, and you guys do the same thing, where we see just the collapse of corporate media, how it's capitulating to billionaires, to oligarchs, to Trump. We saw the fiasco at CBS just this week with 60 Minutes. We're going to talk about that in a second. And I firmly reject the notion that Americans want a clickbait culture. I think Americans want reliable reporting, reliable insight and information. And so you won't get clickbait headlines from me. You won't see me be like breaking, I'm the first one to break the story, or to like, take somebody else's headline and pass it off as my own. I try to put out daily, thoughtful analyses on the issues that impact us. And I may not always be the first one to share something, but I will always make sure my information is accurate and vetted and verified. Because in a world where trust to me is the most important currency right now, that's something that I take deeply seriously. And you guys do the same thing. I mean, this is not anything new for you guys. And I think this is why you guys are seeing success as well. And my goal is that we build a media narrative where trust is revived once more, where people value trust, and they, we pull people away from relying on the clickbait, bombastic nonsense, and instead get back into meaningful dialogue and discussion and nuance, where we can have discussions on complex topics in an engaging and fun way, but without dehumanizing or belittling anyone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And
that's one of the things oh, sorry, Lawrence, you go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that's one of the reasons I really love reading your writing, and I'm so excited to be talking about you today. I learn a ton. It's never sensationalized, but it is often delivered with warmth and humor. I also follow you on Facebook, so I feel like I get both sides of you, and particularly there, I'm like, you. I mean, look at the title of the show, Fucked Up Friday. We are talking about the serious news of the week, but there's a sense of like humor will help us get through this kind of catastrophic moment for our country. And if we don't have at least an exasperated, like, oh my God, with our like-minded people, how are we ever going to get through it?
Absolutely.
But to do it without descending into anything that's cruel, like I think a lot of sources can do. So yeah, it's a thrill to be talking to you here.
Oh, thank you.
Can't wait to hear your perspective on the news of the week, and also I think have some fun. And yeah, I think this little girl is not feeling her best. She feels
she's Kira.
I know. She's our emotional support dog today. We'll say something very bad is happening in Nigeria right now. I know we're all kind of baffled by that after Christmas Day. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that. Unless anyone has that as their fucked up Friday story, which would be a valid choice.
Yeah.
That actually was what I was going to talk about.
Okay, well, we won't talk about that one first. Then
we'll save it then.
Yes.
Qasim, one of the things you just said really hit me, which is I think people are actually hungry for complexity, right? They're hungry for nuance and understanding issues more deeply. And there's this myth, I think, that has been perpetrated at least since the 80s. I feel like somehow all the frat bros took over and like objected that that complexity in learning was for dorks and nerds. And Gesundheit, I think you might have just sneezed.
I did. I put myself on
Super.
mute. Yes.
And so there's this like myth out there that the American people can't handle complicated issues, but we can. I think every time, at least in my experience, when I write something that has some nuance or complexity to it, people really respond to it. Has that been what you found as well?
Absolutely. And we often think about how do we grow. I mean, because we're all thinking about that, right? We all want to grow our platforms. We all want to get more subscribers, more paid subscribers, all that stuff, right? That's just kind of, this is our livelihood. We're trying to make a livelihood. We're doing the things that we love.
Right.
And what I've consistently found is that the more thorough and the more like fact-checked and referenced article I write, the more engagement and subscribers I get, free and paid, without fail, without exception. And it's so funny because when I started out, the advice given to me was you got to have a clickbaity hook, you got to loop them in, and then you got to make the hard ask, and then you got to paywall, like right at the cliffhanger, you got to paywall and get people to pay. And I thought, that seems so cheap to me.
Yeah.
Like that sounds great if I'm like a celebrity, or an athlete or a movie star, and I want to talk about watching and now I've created art. I get that, for a want, but for a need, which I think human rights are a need, it shouldn't be a want. I can't be like, hey Lawrence, for $5, I can teach you how to combat anti-Semitism. Like, it's such a silly thing to me, right? It's almost like dehumanizing, actually. And so my first promise was I'm not going to put anything behind a paywall. And then after that, I said, I believe that people are sick and tired of the 10-second clips. And the audience that I want to reach are the people who are aware or want to become more aware of just how bad things are, and they want meaningful solutions to it. And that just doesn't happen in a 20-second TikTok video. I'm sorry. I love TikTok. I'm on TikTok. I post content all the time. But for this audience here, I found that the more engaged and researched I make my content, the more authentic it is to people because they see the work that I put into it, and the better response that I get. I mean, I did a piece just a couple of days ago that's been read over 100,000 times now about the KKK being founded on December 24th.
I have it open right here on one of your readers.
And thank you for that, Dana. And that just the engagement and response that I got from people. It's really interesting because some of it you see in the comments, but so much of it are from people who are well-meaning and said, look, I've done things in the past that I wasn't proud of. And as I read this, I realize how that directly relates to now. And I just want to have a conversation on how I can be a better person about this space. Yeah. And to be sure, JD Vance, they're not apologizing for being white. Thank you. They're apologizing for recognizing their complicity in racism, and they want to do better and be better. And I love that. I cherish that. And I tell folks that I always write with the sense that every person has the ability to do better today than they did yesterday. And that's what I'm trying to achieve. And I think that's what my writing tries to focus on. I think that's why it's being well received right now.
Yeah, I love that point about not paywalling content that's kind of crucial to understanding this moment in time and making a difference, right? And
yes.
I mean, that's what we do here. We kind of operate on the NPR model. We offer all of our content for free and, hope that people contribute. And Blue Ant Media that Dana and I both work with, does the same thing. Like if it's crucial to understand this moment, it should be offered, with kind of open arms and freely, so that we can all be in this thing together and learn and be better.
That's right.
Yeah, we've talked about, right. We have a very active chat. Yanni just said, raise your hand if you've ever been asked to apologize for being white. Anyone?
Right.
Yeah, no hands are going up. But
55 years old and it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah,
so.
Not yet.
I saw a post on Threads that said it perfectly, that I'm not asking JD Vance to apologize for the color of his skin. I'm asking him to apologize for the content of his character.
Oh my God, yes.
I was going to say for being an asshole, but you said it a lot
Right.
nicer than I did.
Right.
Dr. King tends
Um,
to be more eloquent than most of us. So
Yeah. Thank you,
right?
Dr. King.
I just think we're at such a fascinating moment in, well, in Substack, but also just in journalism in general, because this is the destination of choice at the moment where either career journalists are being fired or are fleeing for ethical reasons. And then folks like some of us smaller stackers are kind of coming up from the ranks of like, how can I help contribute to this political moment? How can I help impact change in the way I want to? And we're all colliding here in this very magical way, trying to figure out the way forward. And I don't think the way forward right now is paywalling your chat so you can't have a conversation with people who are showing up for the live. We learn so much every day, both from our guests and also from our audience here. So we're grateful to everyone who's joined us this morning. We're so grateful to have you here and so happy, I don't know, to be part of this moment. And I feel like 2026 is going to be telling of like, where is this all going? And I think there's a lot of celebrities joining Substack. So we know things are going to change, but it's going to be really interesting to see how it all works out. And we hope to keep elevating voices like yours, because
thank you.
I think the reason this story caught my eye, and I just reopened it again this morning, is like, I didn't know this. Like, really? The KKK founded on Christmas Eve?
Mhm.
That's like,
Yeah. I mean, just put yourself in the frame of reference, right? The Civil War has just ended 8 months prior.
yeah.
600, 700,000 people killed in this war. There is still, we haven't gotten to Texas yet, so Juneteenth hasn't happened yet. And there is severe turmoil. My history is not, it's failing me. Had Abraham Lincoln been assassinated yet or no? What day was he assassinated? But whether he has or not, there's a lot of turmoil in that space as well. And as the country is like, starting to try to heal from this horrific wound that is existential, a bunch of white supremacist so-called Christians get together and say, you know what we need? We need a covert terrorist organization to continue the work of the Confederacy.
Mm.
And someone said this, the biggest mistake the United States ever made was never punishing the South properly, was conceding to the South, whether it was electoral college, whether it was allowing them back into the Union without paying restitution and reparations. All these things that we see to this day were germinated at that time and embedded in the fabric and the DNA at that time. And it's daunting to think about. 160 years is a long time, but it's also just 2 human lifespans, right? That's basically it. And the fact that we're still talking about this now as the KK, because the other part of the article, Dana, that you'll notice is that it talks about the revival of neo-Nazis because the FBI is backing off altogether and going after, this magical group called Antifa, which I don't know.
Right.
There's headquarters. Like, are you guys having headquarters? I don't know. It's just like, what's happening here?
If it means being
It's, the
anti-fascist,
room
I'm
next
all
door.
in. Right.
That's it. And so
I live in
that's why I wrote
Seattle.
about
I'm
it.
pretty sure the headquarters could be here
Oh, well,
somewhere.
Seattle, yeah, Portlandia, Seattle, It's not great over there. But that's
Somewhere
so
on
I'll
I-5.
stop my rant. But that's basically why I wrote it, because most people don't know that we're at the 160th anniversary and just how coordinated this was. Racism is not chaos; it's coordinated, and people need to understand that everything we're seeing, every racist act in American history from a government standpoint, has been highly coordinated. It was not out of ignorance; it was deliberateness, and that's the scary part.
Right. And
he was dead. Oh, I'm sorry. Keep cutting you off.
April 14th, Janet jumped in and informed us that April 14th is the day that Lincoln was assassinated.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Qasim, we talk on the show, a lot now because I kind of keep pushing the issue, but I feel like we've never had a big national conversation about reparations, right? And kind of, drafting on your point here, it has just been 2 long human lifetimes since the Civil War, and we've never done the work around processing the trauma of, Black people being enslaved, dragged in chains to this country, being held in chattel slavery for 400 years. And then the trauma of, the promise of freedom and then Jim Crow for 100 years, essentially. And, reparations has never really been a big national conversation. And my contention is I know that people will object. I know that people will say it's hard and it's complicated and it's a vast amount of money. Um, but even just having the conversation and acknowledging that there's a gigantic wrong that needs to be corrected still is kind of at the heart of this political moment as well, right? Like to your point that um, the KKK has been around for this entire time. They've been actively advocating these, anti-black, ideologies for that entire time, and we just keep pushing the conversation down the road. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on a complicated topic like
Yeah.
reparations.
There is legislation, HR 40, that's introduced every year, and Republicans vote against it, and enough corporate Democrats refuse to vote for it as well, which shows just the complicity and the cowardliness of corporate Democrats. So the idea that we haven't formulated a plan is just not true. I know a lot of critics say that, and it's just not true. It's out there. That's one. Two, I think we need to make sure we're framing reparations properly. It's not a handout. It's not charity.
Right.
It's accountability. If Dana, if I come to your house and bash in your car windshield, you
Hey,
you saying you have to pay for that is not charity. It's not a handout. It's I broke your car. I need to pay for your car windshield. If God forbid I firebombed your house, um, demanding that I pay for that is not charity. Now, if someone does that for 266 years, it doesn't suddenly become charity. It's just that much more of an accountability, and it's that much more severe and extreme. And I bring up this illustration as kind of gruesome as it is to prove a point that if we can agree across the political spectrum that if somebody comes and burns down your house, they better pay for it. Then why would we suddenly scoff at the idea of that being done for 266 years as charity? It's nonsensical. It's completely nonsensical. And then the final point is, how are we going to pay for it? Well, look, what we know for a fact, for an absolute fact, is that the government who initiated that slave trade is still with us, is still alive.
Yeah.
We know that many of the banks and the insurance companies that profited off of that, they're still with us. So we're not asking individual, Joe the plumber to go and pay for it. We're asking the institutions and the government that enacted this to be accountable to it. And maybe you can't pay it in 1 year. Maybe you need a couple of decades to pay for it. Well, that's a good idea. Let's start doing that as well. We know for a fact that that the reparations paid to Jewish people weren't paid in 1 year. We know for a fact that reparations paid Haiti had to pay reparations to France for France losing their enslaved people. If it can work that way, it can certainly work this way. And so I don't see this as a 1 year like Thanos snap of the finger. I see this as like a decades-long process.
Yeah.
And then the final point, I'll add this fourth point. To those who say, well, it was so long ago, ignoring for a moment the sheer hypocrisy and cruelty that because systemic white supremacy delayed it, now we shouldn't do it. If you don't want to wait for that long, let's pay reparations for redlining during the Jim Crow era, because those Black elders are still with us. Yeah. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, during the Jim Crow era, post World War II especially, Federal Housing Authority redlining denied Black people loans, denied them access to capital, denied them homes. And so whereas white Americans were able to buy homes off of 0%, 1% loans or off of government loans, Black people weren't. Home ownership is the number one source of generational wealth. Those homes that were built back then and then sold and resold, those are now worth $500,000, $700,000, $800,000, $1 million. White Americans were able to use those loans, that equity, to pay for college, to start small businesses, to pass generational wealth on to the next generation. Black Americans weren't. And that's why today the median wealth for a white family is $147,000, and for a Black family, it's $3,600. Right. And so even if you don't want to go back 2 generations or 2 lifetimes, go back 1 lifetime and pay reparations to those Black Americans who were denied justice. And I promise you, you'll feel better about yourself, and our economy and our society will be a lot better as well.
Sure. And to that point, it doesn't have to be cash payments, right? It could be free college, right? It could be college and voc tech for Black folks. Like we could be creative in the ways that we actually pursued justice for this. So
Well, I think you bring up a really good point, Lawrence. Because remember, why do HBCUs exist? Because even after public slavery ended, white folks were like, nope, we don't want black kids learning here. So black people
right,
had to set up their own schools. And so, yes, there absolutely should be free tuition. I think free tuition should be for everyone. It's insane that we're charging for tuition. But I do want to emphasize
Yes.
we can be creative, and there should be cash payments, because at the end of the day, cash is king. And that's how we ensure that there's meaningful accountability in this space.
yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for your perspective on that. I really appreciate it. And I know folks in the chat who come to the show every day have heard me bang this drum a couple of I really think it's important that we start to move the Overton window back towards real change, like the conversation of reparations. And even if the end result isn't that we do a full-blown reparations plan, if we can at least get people to agree that investing in public education and public health are ways that we could try to bring more justice to the social disparity that exists and that so disproportionately hits people of color, that's the conversation that's worth having, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if we could. You mentioned the whole CBS 60 Minutes debacle. I think most people at this point have seen the the redacted piece, thanks to Canada and thanks to folks who have reposted it everywhere.
So I'm going to go grab a link because I don't know if that theory is true.
Okay,
So let's.
yeah,
I know
grab a link.
Blue Amp
We
has shared
published it
it.
on Blue Amp because we
Yeah,
wanted to
I'm
make
going to
sure
go
that people
find it
saw it.
there. And I know Julie Roginski and Michelle on Mayday Network did a great one too, because both offer commentary alongside of it. But everybody should see this clip if you haven't seen it. Do you want to? You take that while I go grab the link, Lawrence.
Well, Qasim, I know your experience as an attorney. You've got some very well-defined thoughts on this, and upon seeing the piece, I'd love to hear kind of your reaction to it.
Mortifying and reflective of just kind of the broader cancer of what happens when billionaires buy media outlets. This is a modern day concentration camp. It's a modern day torture camp. Everything described in the CCOT prison, whether it's the the stacked four high bedding that are metal that don't have any actual bedding, whether it's the torture chambers where there's no light, whether it's the fact that the inmates were denied medical aid, or the fact that they were forced to drink the same water that they used to clean themselves. I mean, this is urine and feces infested water that they are being forced to drink. Everything that's being done there was done in these concentration camps in Germany. I mean, just people are dying in there. People are being denied due process. They're being told you will never leave here again. Help me understand how that's any different. And for someone like Christy Noem to go there and take a photo op in front of people who had nothing to do with the United States, by the way, and claim that these were the people taken, it's the height of propaganda. Goebbels himself would be blushing that and would be jealous that he didn't think of that first. And and for Barry Weiss, who is funded by right-wing billionaires and was installed in that position for a very particular reason, and that is to do the bidding of right-wing billionaires and fascists, for her to have just so little shame that her journalists, not even her journalists, CBS journalists, worked so hard to put together such an excellent and important and informative vetted piece that according to the main journalist, went through 5 different reviews. For then Barry Weiss to just unilaterally lie and say, well, the administration wasn't able to comment, knowing full well that one, that's not a requirement. It's pretty standard journalistic procedure to say, we reached out to so-and-so for comment, they didn't respond. And then to also, so that is bad enough, but then to lie and say they didn't comment when they've been on record repeatedly praising CCOT is just the height of stupidity and absurdity. And I think anyone, Republican or Democrat, who cares about basic human rights, basic dignity, basic due process of law, basic constitutional principles, should recognize that this is an attack on all of us. Because the thing about fascism is that once it's done consuming the particular minority it particularly despises, it finds new minorities, it finds new subgroups, it finds people who aren't as loyal. Look at North Korea right now. If you don't mourn the loss of a leader enough, you can be reported and arrested. And people laugh that, well, that's just an extreme, but it didn't happen overnight. It happens through processes like these. And so I think the journalists at CBS did a phenomenal job with the CCOT story. And
Yes.
I'm glad that Canadians stepped up and got it spread out. I put it on my YouTube, and then CBS filed a copyright complaint and got it taken down. But then so many people started putting it back up that I just think they gave up, and now it's everywhere, which is amazing. So, the last thing I'll say is I think the Streisand effect needs to be renamed as to the Weisted effect, because that was a wasted effort by Barry Weiss right there.
Ugh. I'm doing a quick search here. The segment was intended for 10 million viewers, but it was pulled. Oh, there's no, I'm looking for any data point around, like, my theory is far more people saw this because it got pulled than they would have if it had been live. But I fully admit that, I get all my news on Substacks.
Sure.
So to me, everybody's seen it. Perhaps to mainstream media, that's not the case. But the one thing that was, I hate to use the word comforting in something as atrocious as that broadcast, but wasn't it beautiful to see real journalism happening from a mainstream source, like that quiet, unbiased, just like we're reporting a horror, but we're not sensationalizing it, and we're doing our due diligence.
That's right.
And to slap those journalists in the face with a, like, oh, but the White House hasn't acknowledged it yet, so we can't run it. Like, we talked about this earlier this week of, like, oh, cool, so anytime they want a story pulled, they just have to go silent.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, that's not a great system of being the fourth leg of democracy at all. There's no accountability. So it has been heartening to see. And I think the workaround for not getting pulled down, jump in if I'm wrong here, Lawrence, is if it's interspersed with commentary, then it's not read as just a rebroadcast. Did I get that right, Lawrence?
So when we reposted it from at Blue Amp, when Cliff and I rebroadcast it, I know there's something about showing it on a screen, like a camera recording it on a screen, and then also interspersing commentary. It still got hit with a copyright notification.
Oh, okay.
But they haven't pulled it down. So there's kind of an interesting piece there on, CBS is certainly trying to exercise their copyright, but YouTube might, like Qasim, like you said, it seems like they might be kind of giving up a little bit.
Yeah, I think Cory Booker had it published, and it hasn't been taken down from his page at all.
Nice.
Good.
Nice.
Yeah, I feel like we're all figuring out this, like, new world of journalism on the fly, and on the daily whatever. Anytime we figure something out, we like to share it, just because there are things of, like, how does one get on a bestseller? One of the charting, what do they seem to pull from? It has the algorithm changed. It feels like keeping up with those things could be a full-time job. But it does seem like this story in particular, you can still find it.
Yep, absolutely. So, it's on my Substack as well. They haven't taken it off my Substack.
Oh, great. Okay.
And so the full video is there. And I actually went ahead and downloaded the transcript, and then I recorded myself reading out the entire transcript with the video in a tiny box on my YouTube, and they haven't taken that down yet either. So
nice.
Great. I'm posting the link to that right now. Here's the CCOT link.
Well, we're already at the bottom of the hour. We should probably shift into Fucked Up Friday. Dana, do you wanna tell Qasim the rules for Fucked Up Friday?
I would love to. So, Fucked Up Friday is our weekly show where we invite a guest like yourself on, and we each pitch a story that we think was the most fucked up news of the week. And we tend to not pick the one dominant story. For example, this week, CCOT story. But something maybe folks missed in the news. And we don't just say what the story was, we sell it, we pitch it, because our audience is going to weigh in at the end and vote for the so-called winner of Fucked Up Friday, knowing we all lose because this is the reality we all have to live in. But at least we're doing it with a good sense of humor. And it's God, we can't even say it's a gentleman's game anymore because that seems sexist. But we do it for the glory. We're saying we're the winners that week. And historically, we used to give our guests the first turn, But what we have found is there seems to be a recency bias. So we will give you the option of going first, second, or third.
I'll go second, right in the middle.
Nice.
Okay. Lawrence, and usually Lawrence and I tend to share with each other what we're pitching as our Fucked Up Friday story, but I haven't talked to anyone with Christmas in the middle. I don't know what Lawrence's story is. I don't think he knows what mine is. Lawrence, would you like to go first or last?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I've got mine ready to go here. Okay.
Okay.
So, folks, this is what I am picking this week. The pandemic that we are pretending isn't coming. So this week there was an article in Science Focus, the BBC News Magazine's weekly science magazine. Scientists quietly dropping a warning that should set off every alarm bell for all of us. There's a new strain of the bird flu, H5N1. Get this, clade 2.3.4.4b. It's now so widespread in animals that experts are saying essentially it's out of control in the wilderness, in wild animals. It's not just birds. And most troublingly, it has spread into dairy cattle in the United States, as well as foxes and several other mammals. So much so in dairy cattle in the United States that genetic material from the virus has been found in milk. Now, of course, if you drink pasteurized milk, like most normal folks,
I see where you're going with
denatured. If you drink raw milk, like RFK Jr., you are potentially getting virus fragments from this version of the bird flu. And so this is what I think makes it the most fucked up story of the week. It's basically the warning that these scientists are issuing in Science Focus that the United States has become the perfect breeding ground for transmission into humans, and our next global flu pandemic, like the Spanish flu, because obviously we've got RFK Jr. in charge of the CDC. Everyone who is important and learned in public health has been fired or sidelined or pushed out. We've lost our institutional memory, even just from COVID. We don't have the early warning infrastructure anymore that we used to have. And RFK Jr. has essentially issued decrees within HHS and the CDC downplaying and denying the seriousness of this threat. So he's dismissed concerns, he's downplayed the expert warnings. So the US is now, with this current flu season, in a perfect place to become the incubator for the human transmissible H5N1 bird flu. So the next pandemic is right around the corner. It could happen any minute. And we are not going to know about it until people start getting sick and dying, because we have completely eliminated everything that we used to have within the CDC and public health that could warn us and keep us apprised and get us some early response. So there you go. That's my Fucked Up Friday story.
Hooray!
I'm waiting for the comedy part of that. That's horrifying. And you also add into the fact that there's an actual measles outbreak in South Carolina right now.
Right.
And that's accelerating as well. So this is not good. It's not good at home.
Oh my God. And I'm just thinking all the things layered on this of like, one of my big personal stories for this year, not a fucked up one, just I work in tech. And so return to office, the mandates are everywhere now, and they're rapidly becoming 5 days a week, get back in your desks, all of those freedoms we were allowed about how and where we worked during COVID, first out of necessity, and then just sort of out of, it became a norm. Those norms have completely rolled back. So here we all are smashed in these office buildings.
Yeah, not good.
No, I don't even have clever commentary, Lawrence, other than, sorry, I'm wiggling in my chair. Stock up on masks.
Yeah.
And flu vaccine, right? Like they're still at least allowing us to get the flu vaccine. If you haven't gotten yours for this season, go get it.
Yep.
Because we're still at least allowed to have that. Thank goodness.
Yes, I have gotten both of mine, COVID and flu, but my kids haven't yet. So this is a good reminder to get out there. There never really seems to be a good time to just get to be like, you can be sick, but maybe this week while they're off school, I can do that. Oh God, that was a doozy, Lawrence. Seriously, fuck this administration. How I will never understand how the takeaway from 2020 for so many was like that was fake. The refrigerators of people, like I'm not gonna get into that too far, but just good pick, Lawrence. That was a really good one. And Qasim, you're up.
Yeah, I was gonna say I should have gone first. Dang. Well, my story is pretty jacked up as well. We're seeing this modern day colonizing mentality taking hold aggressively. The fusion of funding Netanyahu to continue to bomb Gaza and Lebanon and Syria, to allowing Putin to continue his aggression against Ukraine and invade and bomb Ukrainian civilians, to now Trump himself having bombed and killed more than 100 fishermen without undue process, absolute war crimes, and threatening to invade Venezuela, which I'm convinced he was about to do before he got talked out of it last second, and he might still do, to now bombing Nigeria. And we're seeing this massive increase in the global military industrial complex. It's one of the three evils that Dr. King warned about when he talked about, racism, poverty, and militarization. And we're seeing this happening in real time. And on Christmas Day, he was bombing Nigeria, claiming Christian genocide. And the irony of hypocrisy of all this is the real genocide that the U.S. is funding in Palestine. He's perfectly fine with that. He's fine with Netanyahu bombing churches, ancient churches in Gaza, killing Christians, bombing Christians. He has no problem with that. But on the mere accusation that there's a Christian genocide in Nigeria, which Nigeria's own Christian leadership and clergy and government officials are saying there is no Christian genocide. There's violence, but it's indiscriminate. It's not targeting religion. We need to work together religiously, interfaith, to combat this narrative that this is religious violence. But there is no actual religious violence. Yet here Trump is happily bombing, and God knows how many civilians he's killed in doing so. But the part that really gets me is that he claims there's Christian genocide in Nigeria, but then bans Nigeria from sending refugees.
Right. That part is the irony is like.
Oh, and there's levels to it, Dana, because the next part is he claims there's genocide of white Afrikaners in South Africa, and magically they're on the next plane over here to the United States. So I can't quite put my finger on the difference between the black and white there, but it's this kind of this reality that we're facing right now, that Trump lied when he said he was going to be the pro-peace president. He obviously, was upset that he didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize, so they made up a FIFA Peace Prize for him, which is wild. Right. And which, by the way, I'm going to award myself the World Cup because apparently that's what we do now. You just make up awards and give them to yourself now.
Sure. I'm voting for you.
But
we're going to make a Gen Xe, the Daily Whatever Show Peace Prize.
We have to now. We have to now. But I think for me, what's really the story that's not being told right now in corporate media is this massive escalation of the police state and of militarization. $50 billion ICE budget, $900 billion, nearly $1 trillion military budget. And these budgets exist because they need to be used. And the massive increase in militarization and global war that we're about to see in the coming years, unless something drastically changes, it's going to be catastrophic, and it's going to, in my view, potentially reshape the way the world even functions.
Yeah.
Damn, that's a good one.
That's a really good one. I put a link in. I think it was the correct one. I just did a quick search for your story. I have to admit, I logged off yesterday. I barely looked at Substack. I was like, I might be Jewish, but it's Christmas. My kids are here. We open presents. We watched Elf, which I have to do every year. And had a big meal. And then I started looking at the news last night to get prepared for this. And I was like, wait, Nigeria? Like that. So I'm really glad you picked this story and did a bit more of a deep dive into it. Oh, I have to close it though, because CNN is putting up giant ads for toenail fungus. Like the really big problem is like, why we all know this, for profit media, like There's
They'll
a glaring example that's not the worst thing about it, but I didn't need to see that
no.
this morning as I was trying to seriously look at news. A great story pick. You all are tough acts to follow. And I will follow it now. And I'm going to say I wear my Fuck Trump t-shirt that Lawrence made for me every Friday now. So fuck Trump for all of this. It's the end of the year. Like fuck Trump for every fucked up Friday we've had this year.
Yeah.
Because every single one of these stories, they all have him and his supporters and his regime at the top of it all. But here's a delightful one. I'm bringing this one back home, domestic, and a little. I'll just read the headline from NPR. Student loan borrowers in default may soon see their wages garnished. I'm going to put the link here in the chat. Here's the story. Let me navigate back over here. So, starting in January, the Trump administration will resume garnishing wages from student loan borrowers in default in early 2026, the U.S. Department of Education confirmed to NPR. The move comes after a years-long pause in wage garnishment due to pandemic. So, during the pandemic, folks who were in default, they paused all of that and acknowledged there's a hardship. The Trump administration has decided, did we lose Qasim?
I think he just had to go off screen for a second.
Okay, perfect. I'll keep reading. So the Trump administration has decided now in early 2026, as so many people are either losing their health insurance or it's just becoming so catastrophically expensive that it's going to be an immense hardship for people who needed to keep it. Why not also start garnishing wages in order to get people to pay back student loans? Those of you who've been here following us in our show for a while know I have a child about to start college next year. So college costs very top of mind. We have been saving, our kids' whole lives to try to pay for school. And it is catastrophic, the amount of money it costs to send a kid to school in the United States. And Lawrence and I are Gen X. I think most of you all know that. And it was bad and hard when we went to school, but it has just gotten astronomically more expensive. Student loans, interest rates have gone up disproportionate to anything else. And it is, I have been drilling this into my daughter's head since they were very young of like, no education is worth becoming, and I'm not using this word lightly, a slave to capitalism if you owe this like insurmountable amount of money as a young adult. And so I can hear how people on the other side of the political aisle will hear this story and be like, oh, well, you borrowed the money. Of course you have to pay it back. There's nothing wrong with this. Good, let's go get our money. But while we're giving all of these crazy tax breaks to billionaires, we're jacking up the costs of healthcare, groceries, and inflation like off the charts. Trying to feed families has become such a hardship. To layer this in is going to be an immense burden, and it's not an insignificant number of Americans. According to the story on NPR, 1 in 4 federal borrowers are in this state right now. 25% of those who chose to educate themselves to try to get ahead in this world, who were told this is the only way to get ahead in the world is to get a college education.
Yeah.
They are in default, which means they are more than 270 days late. It's 3.7 million Americans are in that state, and another 2.7 million are in earlier states of delinquency and heading toward it. So the impact of these folks having their wages garnished makes me sick. So this is my fucked up story of the week because I felt like it barely made the news. It's Christmas week. They're just sort of like, oh, did you just spend money, to have Christmas dinner and buy some gifts for your family? And have you been struggling all year and panicking about health insurance? We're garnishing your wages. Like that is what a fucked up thing to do to announce Christmas week and to start as soon as we get back, January 7th, this goes into effect. So if this impacts you, know that this is coming. And that's my pick for fucked up story of the week. Like, Read the room.
All
Read the
right.
room and don't do that.
Dana, if I could add to that,
Yeah.
I did hear. I had to pause for a second and I'll share without getting into details. One of my colleagues is a teacher, and the father of one of their students got picked up by ICE. And they're documented. They're on a green card, but just got picked up by ICE arbitrarily, and they don't know where he is. This is the world that we're in right now. They're calling me because they need me to connect them to an attorney. I've been working on getting them an attorney, but this is the world that we're in, that I'm getting these kinds of calls constantly from folks.
Oh, that's what just happened just now.
That's happened right now. That's why I had to go off camera for a second.
Oh my God.
Just now.
Oh my God, Qasim, do you need to go? Because
No,
I
got her to where she needed to go. I got her where she
Okay.
needed. But my point is that this is the world that we're in. This is not a sustainable democracy. This is not one of those, violent criminal MS-13 things that they fabricate. This is
Oh my God.
hardworking blue collar guy on a green card, and ICE just picked him up, and they have no idea why, and they have no idea where he is. This is the world that we're in. So didn't mean to steal your thunder, but I wanted to apologize for my absence for a few seconds.
You don't need. You're a superhero as far as I'm concerned.
I wanted to add to your really important story, Dana, that this I can't stand this argument that, well, why'd you take out the loan if you can't pay it back? Hold up for just 1 second here. If that's the argument, why are we forgiving PPP loans? If that's the argument, why since 1980 have we forgiven more than 10 trillion, not billion, 10 trillion in corporate bailouts? We're talking about 1.7 trillion, which is not a small amount of money, but first of all, it shouldn't have been there anyway, because education should be subsidized by our taxes. But if we can forgive 10 trillion to billionaires and centimillionaires, why the hell can't we forgive 1.7 trillion to 45 million working Americans? It just makes no sense whatsoever. And there's also a racial element to this as well. Going back to my point earlier about the FHA loans and housing, that has resulted 20 years after white students take out student loans, 95% of them have paid it off because they're using generational wealth to pay it off. 20 years after Black and brown students have taken out loans, 95% have not paid it off because they don't have generational wealth. And so this is a system designed to continue to exacerbate the class crisis and the race crisis in this country. And for Trump, this fascist, to come in and start to garnish wages of mostly women, of mostly Black and brown people, it's just going to further exacerbate that crisis. So, I'm so glad you brought that up, because it's not getting the attention that it deserves. This is going to devastate tens of millions of people in this country.
Yeah, I've tried to explain to folks who don't have kids, or people who I know who maybe don't worry about money the same way that we do, of how, I knew college would be expensive. Their dad, my kid's dad, and I have been saving their whole lives. We have two daughters who are 15 and 17. And we have saved what I consider a pretty significant amount of money. It is nowhere near enough. Nowhere near enough, even to go to a state school. And in this case of the state school, a lot of it is because it's expensive to set up a home, right? They have to live somewhere, the dorms or an apartment, and feed them for a year. And that's becoming so much more expensive. But catastrophic, easy $150K to put your kids through college each or more. That's at a state school, all in. And when you think about if you don't go to college, there's so many careers that you just really can't pursue, where we are putting kids into this loop of they can't get out. And I hate to think of,
a trap.
It is such a trap. And so, and then at the back end of it, to be at the mercy of someone who's, giving these immense tax breaks to billionaires. But it's we're going to garnish your minimum wages so that you can pay back.
And somebody who literally had to pay a $25 million fine for conning people on Trump University. This is the worst person to electorate anyone on paying back student loans. You can't.
Oh my God, I almost forgot about that.
Yeah, such a good point. Such a good point. All right, in the interest of time, we're at the point where we should vote. So, chat, you know the way that this works. If you're voting for my story about the inevitability of the U.S. becoming the global pandemic epicenter for bird flu, put Lawrence in the chat. If you're voting for Qasim's story about the Christmas Day strikes on Nigeria and the hypocrisy there with regard to the claimed Christian genocide, put Qasim's name in the chat. And if you're voting for Dana's story on student loan garnishment starting on January 7th, For folks who are in default, put Dana's name in the chat. I'm seeing a lot of people say three-way tie.
Three-way tie, three-way tie. Oh my, Lawrence, because I'm going to be in ground zero for a lot of deaths in South Carolina. Oh, Yanni, I'm sorry.
All right, I'm putting Qasim in the chat. You got my vote.
Lawrence, Dana, Lawrence, it's a tie. Dana, Lawrence, tie. Every story's crucial. Oh my gosh, Qasim, tie, Qasim. Can we be selfish and also stupid and vote for Jill Stein? Sure. Sure, Cliff. Jill Stein's getting a vote.
Protest
It'll
vote.
probably pull it one way or another. All awful. Three-way.
I'm seeing a lot of three-way ties. This has never really happened like this before, Qasim.
There we go.
Right. There usually is someone who emerges as a clear winner. Dana, I have a senior as well. Oh yeah. I have a story half written about this of like, this is one of the Gen X burdens that we carry of like, a lot of us have student loans still of our own and are also trying to advise our kids on which college to pick. And also, your job might not exist because of AI by the time you graduate. Good luck with that, kid.
For us elder millennials, same thing. I mean, I've got student loans, and I got a kid who's a junior taking the ACTs in a few weeks. So. Yeah.
Oh, good luck. Good luck with that. Mine was not a great test taker, but she's a great artist. So it all balances out, right? You should see the price tag on art and design colleges right now. Woo!
Yeah.
But
right,
I think it's a tie.
We should just declare it a three-way tie. Really, like, I've never seen so many people voting for a three-way tie before.
Yeah.
So Qasim, congratulations.
It's great. I'll expect my giant trophy and ceremony.
Right, we all get tiaras.
Yes, along with the Daily Whatever Show Peace Prize that has just been created, and we've named you the first winner of that.
Three-way tie, exactly.
Yeah,
I know.
If they can give three-way ties to Nobel Prizes, they can give three-way ties to this one as well. It's good.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I see no reason why we can't say it. And what a good way to end the year. This is actually our final broadcast of 2025. What a fucking year.
What a fucking year. And Qasim, it's your first time on our show, and we have a question that we always ask every first-time guest.
Go for it.
And I'm excited to hear your answer on this one. Dana, do you want to do the honors and ask our final question?
I do. This is a very hard-hitting question. Brace yourself. We know you're an elder millennial, but I suspect you will still have an excellent thought on this one. What is the most Gen X song of all time? Like, if you think about Gen X, yes, what is the song or songs, you can name more than one, that comes to mind?
I gotta go with "Living on a Prayer" by John Bon Jovi.
Nice. That is a great choice.
That's me.
No one has ever picked that, and it's such a good choice. You live for the fight when that's all that you got.
That's right. To me, it kind of epitomizes, and like I'm in that millennial where it's like my wife and I are about the same age, and so we're like in that micro generation of between Gen X and millennial. So I kind of associate with both age groups, but to me, that's a song. That is a song of the 80s that kind of captures everything. So
I love it. That is such a great choice.
Perfect pick. Bon Jovi, I feel like if you're not Gen X or real close to it, you don't have the same.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think my kids who are pretty musically astute would know a Bon Jovi song.
And he's got more than one, right? Like "Shot Through the Heart," same thing. Like gives you the same vibes as well.
You give love. Now I want to go sing karaoke. I love. What's the most millennial song of all time? Since you're spanning two generations, we're living on a prayer.
There's so many in the millennial side. There's so many, but I think "Good Riddance" by Green Day is one that falls in that. Where there's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. That was like every high school graduation song in the early 2000s, late 90s. That's a good one. I think anything from like, "Smells Like Teen Spirit" is probably a good one as well. Anything by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Though I have a friend who says that every song sounds like the exact same song, and he's not necessarily wrong, but that doesn't mean they're not good. I mean, there's a lot of good ones there. So. Most of my music taste is in alternative, and so that's probably, you can probably see that already. But I'm sure there's some phenomenal hip hop songs that we can talk about as well.
Love it.
Nice. I love it. Qasim, thank you so much for joining us. It's been such a blast to have you here. We hope you'll come back in the future for another Fucked Up Friday or any other time. If you've ever got anything you want to talk about, we'd be happy to host you here.
Always a privilege, guys. Thank you for the work you're doing, and have a safe new year, and let's keep fighting fascism in 2026.
Absolutely, yeah. And thank you for the work
Let's
that
do
you're
it.
doing. It's incredibly important, and we all got a little peek, during the show at the good
Yeah.
work that you're doing. So thank you for doing that, and good luck to the folks that reach
Yeah.
out to you today.
I hope everything goes well with them. I'm glad they have you on their side.
All right. Thanks,
Take
everybody.
care.
Have a
Thank you
great
so
rest of your
much.
Friday and a good weekend. We'll
Happy
see you
end of
next year. Love you, mean
2025.
it. Bye.
Love you, mean it.
Mwah.